workforce opportunities for not just for Africa, but for the world. We need to do this. This is what Africa Day represents to us in our UBA.
Oh, thank you very much. Professor Niane, if I can turn to you, you are somebody who not only is concerned about the decolonization of African history, but you also tend towards perhaps the major figures, the great man theory of history. And I wonder, and for myself, I would say that I believe that cometh the hour, cometh the man, that we have many great men rise and fall, but if the circumstances are not right, then their greatness never becomes apparent. How do you feel? Do you feel that we should always look to our great figures in our history, or should we concentrate on creating the conditions which allow greatness to flourish? I'm going to explain to your audience, the audience, that Prof is going to speak in French, and his reply will be translated for you to hear. So please bear with us a little bit.
Je vous remercie, madame. Commence par dire que je suis très heureux.
I'm very happy
d'être à Lagos
to be in Lagos
pour assister à cette journée mémorable,
to take part in this memorable day,
à cette célébration de la journée.
To take part in this celebration of Africa.
Parler d'histoire, c'est très important.
Talking about history is very important.
Il n'y a pas de peuple sans histoire.
There is no people without history.
Mais il faut le dire, notre passé a été nié, notre passé a été...
But it has to be said, our past has been denied.
A été avili, et nos populations se sont trouvées asservies.
And our people have known nothing about it.
Vous comprendrez pourquoi.
That explains why.
Dès les premières années de l'indépendance, les peuples africains,
during the early days of our independence,
ont fait une première supplique à l'UNESCO.
African people have contacted UNESCO.
Les Africains ont demandé à l'UNESCO, au lendemain même de l'indépendance, d'envisager la rédaction d'une histoire de l'Afrique.
African people have asked UNESCO to rewrite the African history.
Car au lendemain de l'indépendance, on ne savait pas quoi enseigner en histoire. Nos histoires étant niées, on ne répétait que l'histoire.
Because after the independence, we didn't know what to teach about our history, because our history has been denied.
Dans les écoles partout à travers l'Afrique, on enseignait l'histoire de France, l'histoire d'Angleterre.
In our schools across Africa, they were teaching French history and the European history.
Pouvait-on continuer à enseigner l'histoire de France, d'Angleterre, du Portugal, de l'Espagne?
Spanish history, Portuguese history.
Je dois dire que l'UNESCO s'est aussitôt mise à la page. Un comité international a été constitué.
And UNESCO has constituted a committee.
Bref, le travail a commencé avec la direction des professeurs Kizerbo.
Briefly, the work has started under the direction of Professor Kizerbo.
Et tant d'autres que je ne peux pas citer ici.
And many others that I cannot mention here.
Mais on n'a pas attendu la fin de cette histoire de l'UNESCO pour se mettre au travail.
But we didn't wait for the end of that work initiated by UNESCO to start working.
Partout en Afrique, des instituts de recherche ont été créés.
All over Africa, research institutes have been created.
L'enseignement de l'histoire a commencé.
And the teaching of African history has started.
L'histoire de l'Afrique elle-même.
The history of Africa itself,
Et c'est ainsi que l'Afrique a retrouvé sa personnalité à travers l'histoire.
and that's how Africa has been able to reestablish its personality across history.
Bref, je voudrais être assez bref et dire ici que
I would like to say here
beaucoup d'actes ont été enregistrés par l'Afrique.
that many works have been done by Africa,
Beaucoup d'actes enregistrés après l'indépendance de l'Afrique. Et il faut s'en réjouir.
and we have to be happy about that.
Je citerai ici la naissance de l'ONU, de l'OUA.
I would like to mention here the creation of OAU,
L'Organisation de l'Unité africaine.
the Organization of
Elle a
African
été créée en
Unity.
1963.
was created in 1963.
C'est une date historique.
That's a historic date for us.
Elle nous venge de la date de 1885 où les Européens se sont réunis pour se partager l'Afrique et éviter de faire des guerres.
It's a vengeance on the date of 1888 when the European people have conquered our continent and shared it among themselves.
Voilà que toute l'Afrique se réunit et proclame l'unité.
And that day, the entire Africa has come together to proclaim its unity.
Il y a aussi 1999.
We also have 1999.
L'unité africaine se transforme et devient l'Union africaine.
OAU has transformed to become AU.
On peut dire que toutes ces unités sont des anticipations. OUA, unité, organisation de l'Union
All those
africaine.
entities are talking about our unity.
Tout cela peut paraître comme des anticipations, mais des anticipations absolument indispensables.
Can he speak in the mic, please?
Des anticipations absolument indispensables.
All those things have been very necessary for our continent.
Les cadres sont tracés. Les cadres sont tracés et l'Afrique crée aussi des fédérations à travers le continent.
Policies have been put in place, and Africa have created federations across the continent,
Et l'Union se fera à travers ces fédérations.
and unions will be formed across those federations.
Ce sont ces fédérations qui vont constituer l'Organisation des États-Unis d'Afrique.
And it's those unions that will form the organization of the United States of Africa.
Je voudrais souligner ici
I would like to mention here
que le chemin est très dur pour les Africains.
that the road has been very tough for Africans.
Il y a l'action des impérialistes transformés en grande puissance aujourd'hui.
Is the action of the colonialists that have become the big powers today.
L'Afrique sous-développée, sans équipement, a beaucoup de difficultés à marcher.
The developing Africa without infrastructures has a lot of difficulties to develop,
Mais la voie est tracée, rien n'arrêtera l'Afrique.
but the path has been created. Nothing will stop Africa.
La démocratie chancelle actuellement.
Our democracy is still very in its early days,
Mais elle se raffirmera et marchera sur ses deux pieds comme il faut.
but it will get stronger and will work across various countries as it's supposed to be.
Même si aujourd'hui, ici et là, il y a des coups d'État.
Even if here and there are coups d'etat across the continent,
Mais le calme va se rétablir et l'Afrique sera unie.
but peace will reign and Africa will be united.
Je voudrais terminer en me tournant vers Soyinka.
I would like to end by turning towards Wole Soyinka.
Nous avons connu des moments importants de vie
Speak in the
commune à
mic.
Dakar. Nous avons connu des moments importants de vie commune à Dakar.
We have had moments together in Dakar.
C'était sous la présidence du président Léopold Sédar Senghor.
Is under the presidency of Léopold Sédar Senghor.
Il était jeune alors.
He was young then.
Et il incarnait la lutte contre la négritude. Et il incarnait la lutte contre la négritude.
And he was the incarnation of the fight against the movement, the black movement.
Et il disait que l'important, c'est d'agir. Le tigre attaque et ne parle pas de tigritude.
And he was saying that what is important is to act.
C'était des moments durs où l'Afrique était en train de se libérer.
Those were tough moments when Africa started its liberation.
Aujourd'hui, toute l'Afrique est libre et je m'en réjouis.
Today, the entire African continent is free, and I'm glad and I'm happy about that.
Amen.
Thank you very much, Professor. I should say that the translator was referencing that famous statement by Professor Soyinka that the tiger does not proclaim its tigritude, and that a black person does not have to proclaim that they're black. But I'm going to still keep Prof in the cooler a little bit, because I want to still pursue this theme with Samia Nkrumah of the issue of, because you as a politician, you are seeking to write your history, or to write on the history of your own country. And we have these different strands. One is the theme of African unity, and yet in each country, we have issues which have to be addressed and which may not be capable of a continent-wide solution. Nonetheless, we have these figures from our past. The poet who started gave us examples of some African women who have been pioneers, and Prof has written his book on Sundiata. And I wonder, do you take your inspiration from them, or do you look to build the situation or the conditions in your country that will make greatness possible?
Thank you. But before I respond or answer your question, I just want to congratulate UBA, United Bank for Africa, and all of you really here for celebrating this important occasion in this fashion, by putting emphasis on history or what we can learn from history to improve our present. So well done for that. Well done also for promoting African entrepreneurship. And that's in the right direction. For facilitating intra-African trade. I'm sure you play a part in that. And we are looking and hoping and praying for the day when African banks will control our huge capital that we will amass the day we unite our productive capacities and our production. Can you imagine that day? So I'm looking for the day when UBA will control huge capital. I know it will be a good thing for all Africans. So please continue in this direction. Now, to answer your question, the last century was famous for what, as far as we Africans are concerned? I think the biggest happening was our independence, our national liberation. This century, what could be the biggest, best thing that could happen to Africans? I think it's our unification. And when we speak about Africans, we speak about Africans everywhere, not just on the continent, but also what we call the diaspora. Africans abroad, like Marcus Garvey said, Africans at home and abroad. That is really our population. 1.5 billion people. That is how strong we can become if we think together and plan together. Now, I'm not here in my personal capacity only, but I think I'm here for what I represent. And that is a vision for the total liberation, economic, cultural, social, of Africa, and the total liberation and unification. I'm a student of Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah. I'm an Nkrumahist by birth, but also by conviction. So I believe in studying our great historians, our great thinkers, and I'm honored to be in the company of some of them. It is so important for us to begin to reorientate ourselves as Africans, to understand where we came from. The past 500 years have been terrible. You know, defeat, enslavement, colonialism, and we are still even struggling to be free to make decisions for the benefit of our people today. So, but we had a history before those 500 years, as our thinkers, deep thinkers would tell us more about today, I hope. And it is that history that we need to look at as younger Africans. We need to be empowered with that understanding. Our contribution to civilization, to religions, to humanity, that is what we need to understand. Because that African-centered education is what will give you and I the courage to change our situation today. Because I think by now we all know what needs to be done. But what we are lacking is the courage to make those changes. And we won't have the courage if we don't have the orientation. If our consciousness is not imbued with that confidence of who the Black man and woman is. The day we have that, the struggle will be easier. The struggle is beautiful anyway, because we need, for us to be satisfied spiritually, we need to go in our minds beyond our current borders, beyond our current constraints, to be truly free. That is how we are looking at our political work today. As we are working in our individual small countries, struggling to balance our books, we have a bigger struggle. It would be easier for us to meet the needs of our people if we work together. And complete liberation will come with unification, nothing else. Thank you.
Mr. Femi Kuti, I wonder if I can turn to you, because in some ways you may have the weight of history on your shoulders, but you are also a very modern incarnation of Africa, outward looking, facing the world. But it's a constant theme that Africa exists as seen through the eyes of others. And I wonder whether you feel that history, that learning our history can help us to, in a way, decolonize our minds about who we are.
Good morning, everybody. This place is cold. I'm shivering. history is most important.